Okay, friends of ScanlineVFX and CBUS, today we have with us Joe Scarr, and Joe will be talking about Midway breakdowns and the thinking particle setups. Joe and his team were heavily involved in major effects work on the Midway project. So here goes. Okay, Joe. We know now you're in ScanlineVFX Montreal. So that was sometime in October or November last year that we heard there was a new office in Montreal, and you quietly relocated to there. So how do you feel relocating from the West Shore to the East?
Well, it's very exciting. And actually, the office opened, I think, sometime in maybe late August of 2018. And a lot of the crew started to fill out, and they were hiring quite a few people. Montreal is it's a hotbed for VFX right now. There's a lot going on. A lot of the studios have opened places not too far from where I'm at right now. And yeah, being over here is fantastic. You get some French influence. You get a very old city. I think this is one of the first cities established on the West Coast. I'm sorry, on the East Coast of North America. And yeah, the architecture is amazing. You get these beautiful brick buildings and cathedrals everywhere. So yeah, it's very nice.
French, ça va bien.
Wow, ça va bien. Chaque jour, j'ai essayé, mais ce n'est pas assez de temps en temps parce que j'avais seulement étudié pour quelques ans.
I thought you were American. Where did you get that much French?
Well, I am American, and Americans do learn foreign languages sometimes.
All right, okay, wow.
Yes.
So everyone knows now Joe Scarr speaks fluent English, French, and what have you, even Spanish perhaps?
Well, no, I wouldn't say fluent, but, a little skoshi nihongo hanashimasu.
A little bit of Genki desu ka and a little bit of ni hao, ni hao.
Ni hao, wu jiao Joe Scarr.
Oh, yes. Yes. Okay, so how did you feel when Scanline informed you that your team and you were to take on Midway? Was that something you knew beforehand, or was it like, wow?
I honestly, I don't quite remember, but when you learn about a new project coming in, there's this buildup of excitement because you get to start something new and fresh and a chance to do it right. So yeah, it was very exciting. It was, we went and we watched a lot of the reference. We watched the original Midway movie and just start looking and studying reference and, just really preparing, what was going to happen over the next, 11 months.
So did you guys have to go into the library, like actually go into the, the local main library to get all those actual World War II footage?
Well, that would have been interesting, but no, we have the internet and between our clients and YouTube and historical studies, we were able to dig up quite a bit, so it was very nice.
Okay, so was your team and you the only team in Scanline involved in the Midway visual effects?
Oh, absolutely not. No, Scanline now has, I'm not sure if we have 7 offices or 8 offices around the world. But when this project got started, it was pretty clear we were going to have at least 2 to 3 offices involved. So we had Los Angeles had one of the CG Supervisor, and then up in Vancouver, we had a pool of artists that we were able to work with. And then, of course, in Montreal, we were heavily dedicated also to the show.
Okay, so Montreal was basically doing all the visual effects and the CG and the modeling, everything was being done in Los Angeles.
No, not exactly. We had one of our main people, guy who's been with the company for a long time, Lucas Lepakovsky. Right. Yeah, he's a fantastic, amazing artist, Flowline artist, TP artist, everything, and programmer. And so he was one of the CG supervisors based in Los Angeles. And so one of the challenges is to have multiple offices working on this very large project and being able to synchronize time zones. So Lucas would come in early, he bicycles, I'm not sure if it's like 10 miles a day into the office. He bicycles into work early so that he can have meetings with Montreal because he's in Los Angeles, and then try to coordinate also with Vancouver and make sure everything happens.
Oh, that sounds really, really big. like
Yeah.
large scale.
Yeah. And we have modeling in every office in Scanline
Right.
essentially. So
So
each
could
office
you,
has certain aspects.
I mean, Scanline has a big following, as you know, in North America as well as, in other parts of the world. They're quite well known. So not everyone know how big your teams are. I heard there are about 360 artists involved in just doing Midway alone.
That's about right. Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think including production and support staff and pipeline and, the people who take care of the building for us and run the office. So all of these
right
people are super important. So we're very thankful to have everyone.
now you sound like a socialist.
Well, I live in Canada for 7 years now. So yeah,
I'm
it's,
joking.
well,
That is
it's,
okay. But okay, but Joe, you are the FX supervisor. So you are supervising the team that's mainly on the shots that you're going to show us today, the naval battle, some of the naval battle, and some of the dogfight, the aerial dogfight, right? But yet I understand you said, or somewhere I heard somewhere that this wasn't the largest. Wasn't the largest visual effects film that you have been involved in so far with Scanline.
correct. This project I think had roughly 360 people total. We had maybe almost 30 effects and flowline artists in total working on this, and and that's a lot because there's a lot of work. There's a lot of effects in this show. But, Scanline handles quite a few very large projects. And so at different times, we've had Independence Day 2, we've had, oh boy, a very,
Godzilla.
very long list of projects. Yeah, right now we have Godzilla versus King Kong, which is enormous. And so, yeah, massive amounts of people put into these projects.
And your team just completed the rescue, right? Do you want to
That's
say
right.
anything about that? Well,
Well, unfortunately, I heard they had to maybe change the
that's
screening date
fine. I
due
mean,
to the,
the
but
coronavirus.
right. But no, very, very exciting, fun project. It was so big that we had to split it among. There were three major sequences, that we had to
Wow.
split among the offices and delegate. I think to three different VFX supervisors. So yeah, very big amount of work.
And that was the first China-made movie that Scanline took on. Am I right?
I'm not sure if it's actually the first. There might
All
have been
right.
something prior, but yeah, it's a very large project. We're very excited to see it happen. There's a tremendous amount of TP and Flowline and just beautiful, beautiful artwork involved.
Oh, that's cool. We can't wait to see everything from Midway to that. But okay, so okay, with that catching up with Joe. So now we're going to dive right into the Midway breakdowns, and Joe's going to show us the TP setups and talk about Flowline and TP. And
All right.
Evan is here.
Yes,
Evan,
correct.
All right, here we go. Let me see if I can manage this. We'll go present now. Will it?
Yes.
Full screen?
Yes, we see it full screen.
Okay, fantastic. So this is one of our first shots on Midway, first big effect shots. And here in the background, of course, these pyroclastic details. You can see this is Flowline hard at work. We've got massive amounts of compositing, modeling. All these palm trees, I believe, are faked in. These characters here. But what we have happening is these two planes are coming in very slow. And you can see here's the different layers from comp. And here's some TP leaves that we had, just a very simple emission, some spin and instancing of geometry. And then we get into this, and then here we have some fume coming out of these muzzle flashes. And then these tracers here were developed by Lucas Lepikovsky in Los Angeles. Involves an interesting kind of camera motion blur shake method. But of course, we also have destruction on the road, which is a volume breaker in TP, and some custom cutting tools. And then let's see what else. We get the dust emission. So yeah, pretty fun little collection of things. So just watch that again one more time. Oh, and actually something that we see here in the beginning, and let me back up a little bit. You see these little these streaks here?
Yep.
yeah.
tracer smoke. All the tracer smoke in this movie that for the shots that we did actually used TP smoke operator. A very fast and effective method for generating some atmospherics. So
Yeah, that's nice to
yeah.
hear, Joe. Someone
Yes.
using our smoke solver.
Oh,
That's good.
Well, I think it's probably being used more places than people know, but
Yeah.
here's just one of them. But okay, so let's jump into another screen. And this one is a very large attack scene.
Wow.
Planes come flying in, and here's the breakdown. So we have the different layers involved, and we'll talk about this in a second. Let's watch this again. So immediately off the bat, as these planes are shooting their tracers, again, these what's interesting is these tracers, we visualize with the client through our layout and animation department. And these are generally coming out of Maya. And we take that Maya data and we create TP particles out of them. And then we detect when they hit the ship. So you get these little ship impacts here. And then we also detect, of course, when it hits the water. So anytime you see a bullet hit the water, it's going to generate a little splash. That's also done with TP and just a simple sprite system.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, you got the setup, right?
I do, yeah. We'll take a look at that here in a second. Also, these explosions are actually, very early on in the process, we built a TP system that Flowline artists could use to place and create different styles of explosions. And I should tell everybody, because it's a very underused feature, but TP has what's called a TDTool that allows people to use TP without actually needing to open the UI. And you can adjust massive amounts of parameters and create different styles of explosions. So people should definitely take a look at that. Okay, here's the breakdown. We've got more of these hits. We've got some very nice Flowline torpedoes coming in. Of course, Flowline Ocean, compositing, matte painting, and yeah, it's a very large team effort. And over here, of course, you can see these TP smoke trails coming off these tracers everywhere.
Yeah.
So very easy to control the amount of noise, detail, etc. So
Did you have the full scene in 3D Studio Max with all the
We did.
ships, or did you divide it up, or so everything in one go?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a very optimized pipeline, of course, for dealing with large scenes, and so having low res versions of all our assets, thanks to our modeling department and rigging department, and being able to lay out the scene. Our pipeline tools for setting up scenes is fantastic. The ability to lay these things out really quickly, and of course the speed of developing effects with TP is pretty much unmatched in many cases, especially with these optimized setups.
So do you use XRef systems, or?
Not XRef. Well, actually, I'm sorry, we do. Yes. You don't generally see it directly. XRef, XMesh. We have a asset resolution switching system.
Okay.
Yeah. So. And of course, massive number of people worked on these kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it's very impressive.
I can see that. It's insane. It's insane.
Right.
And do you know any data about the volume caches? They must have been really huge.
Yeah, the Flowline data is large and detailed.
Must be in the terabyte size, right?
Sometimes, yes. We get artists will get reports about how many terabytes they're using, and sometimes they look to see who has the most. But, yeah. If you're over 100 terabytes, it's you're doing a lot of work. So.
Oh, okay, good. That's how it's done.
Right. So you can see on my screen here.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the tracer impact system. So what we have here is a very optimized setup that does not need a whole lot of groups involved. And so you can see how we organize this with a tracer impact system at the top. And this is where all the data channels are stored for the system. And we have the tracers, actual impacts, and then the physics branch. And this really just involves colliders, which are the ships or any hard surface objects in the scene. Force bound is just anything that's going to get affected by forces, which of course is going to be sparks, metal bits, wood bits. And so this is actually an area called the material override, and this is how we handle assigning materials and with our setup at Scanline. Let's see, I'm going to just jump through here and see which ones we have. Okay, so this is, what's that?
Do you also have a caching hierarchy, or do you cache as you go, or?
Well, you can see what I have here is over on the left, I've got really just one cache for this whole setup.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have a cache 2 in place in case you need it. Mm-hmm. There's a cleanup rule that's disabled here that we don't entirely need. So, but yeah, we generally try to just do either 1, 2, maybe 3 caches if possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah, and so this wiring that we see here it might look a little complex, but it's not too bad. The tracers connect to the colliders so that every tracer talks to every collider and detects whether there's an intersection or not, based on the velocity of the tracer. And we also have a sampling rate that we use to kind of to control our speeds. And we just basically, if there is a hit, then we kill that particle and we create an impact. And this impact will store some data in the memory. And then in some of the later rules, let's see which one we have here next. So that impact then at birth, it's going to look up some of its data and decide whether this material ID, it's going to decide, did I hit metal or did I hit wood? In this case, you can see here we have the impact birth metal. So these are sparks and metal bits who get created, and basically just gives them some spin alignment and sends them flying. So the wood setup is very similar, just a little bit different geometry instance. Mm-hmm. And these two could almost be combined. A lot of times in production, you build a setup and you're trying to work so fast and iterate so quickly that you just do whatever works as quickly as possible. And then later, there we go.
That's better.
Yeah, later if you have time, you go back and you realize, well, these two setups look very kind of similar. Maybe there's a way I could procedurally kind of refine this, maybe add another channel or piece of data so that I could control things separately. But it works as it is. It's very fast to develop this. And
no, Joe, I was wondering with the mental logic part of it, do you, looking at the screen of your setup, your dynamic setup, are you moving from your left, the nodes from the left to the right, or actually you're mentally having it from the right and then reverse engineering it back to the left?
Well, it kind of works two ways. It's valuable to be able to think of it in maybe 4 directions. You could normally we would think from left to right.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a Western precept, but we have data coming out of this thing, and this data is given to these other operators, and this collection or this stream of operators is going to make different things happen. In this case, the impact at birth, based on an integer, is going to, my material integer, is going to either create sparks and create a random amount of them. But then, it's important to think, here we have these sparks, and of course these colors are important because it helps us understand quickly, what's going on. We've got all these properties on the right. So, really quickly we can see, the spin, alignment, particle data, and memory are all kind of connected to the sparks. So these are things that are being added to this sparks area. And then, if you go from top down, we generally try to, we don't see it here in this wiring diagram, but when you look at how these operators are ordered in the tree, it's nice to know, or nice to arrange them so that it's kind of a logical top-down organization so that data is flowing properly.
Yeah, and that's probably the most important thing new TP users need to understand or know, because the only thing that matters is in the tree view, the order. So how you
Right.
how you place the stuff in your main view doesn't matter.
All
However,
right.
I always suggest arrange it like you see it in the tree view, because that gives you the order of how TP is processing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in this case, Joe is using tracer, right? So I'm just thinking from a newbie point of view, the mental logic is like you start with a particle and that particle is the tracer. Am I right?
Well, yeah, actually back here, here we have the tracers. I
So
don't, I
it could
don't think we
also
have
be
the
another
tracer-borne
concept
image.
forms from the central and then wiring it outwards towards from the bigger scene into the small little debris or something like that.
Well, kind of, yeah. I mean, we start with, it's almost like the structure of a sentence. We have the subject, we have the verbs, adverbs, and the predicates, the things at the end. So the properties that define these other things. But yeah, new users in TP should always remember that they should try to arrange their tree in the way that things are ordered. So if tracers is here, it's kind of the first thing that sends data to the right. It has the first output. So this tracers should be at the top of this tree. And everything that comes next should be next. So in this case, it would be TP sample rate, because this is also, it has nothing coming in. It's really a top level kind of a piece of data.
Right.
It's kind of an art form. It takes a little time, but we have quite a few videos on YouTube and Vimeo that people can learn from.
Yep.
So here we have the sparks over time, and so spark behavior can be a lot of different things, and you're just gonna have to make a choice artistically which you want it to look like. In this case, we've got the sparks creating kind of a random value, which controls some different fade-in helpers. And these are really just value-to-value operators that have a custom curve on them, and these help decide, hey, what kind of direction variation should I have based on my random value, or what kind of speed I should have based on my random value, as well as this multiplier comes in my tracer speed, whatever that happens to be.
And I also see up there the memory operator, which gives us a huge advantage and power in controlling what's going on and knowing values that
Oh
are
yeah.
attached to objects or particles.
Oh yeah. Well, really the power of memory actually operates in two levels, and most people understand one level where each particle can have a set of variables per particle. Each particle can have its own unique values in memory, but you can also use memory in a global fashion too, where it just stores global variables, and that's been very powerful for us in production. So. We have some simple force bound, telling the force bound tree here to, at birth, if they're not sparks, to get some velocity. And again, we just do some random curves to control both their speed and their direction. So pretty simple stuff. It's not too bad.
So I'm wondering, at what point do you integrate it into Flowline? Like, so this is the TP setup, right? So
Yeah. So let's see, we took a look at this one. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yeah, full
yeah,
screen now.
Yeah. Oops. Vimeo spacebar. So the TP portion and Flowline, the integration here is where we have this system that creates these Flowline explosions. And honestly, these things are so, the TP portion is so simple because we have the Flowline artists create their own helper objects, bring it into TP, and wherever this helper object is where the explosion is going to occur. And then that helper object, comes into TP as its own like emitter, and then it emits a blast, and the Flowline artist can control, the angle of spread, the speed, and then, the size of the shapes and how many shapes to emit, and then they just use that to generate their flow line. So yeah, it's really an incredible combination of technology.
And it's also been in the making for many, many years. It's like all this technology, this techie stuff, like over the years that you guys have been collecting and making and coding.
Oh yeah, and the pipeline advancements, and the advancements both in Flowline and in TP. The amount of things that have come out of this collaboration is really impressive. So in this one, we'll just take a quick look at this breakdown. Here we can see some Flowline Ocean. Someday I'm hoping to recreate this in TP with the flow solver. It shouldn't be too long.
Yeah, we'll see about that, Joe.
Oh, come on. It's, really, I think, isn't it max is the big restriction on our particle count? So
yeah.
What's the joke about?
So for oceans, we have to look a little bit deeper. We have to add new technology as well. And then, as you say, Joe, also it has to work in a 3D Studio Max environment, very efficient. So
yeah, well, at least for now. So yeah, so this kind of shot, we have again all of these flak bursts. This is the ship shooting up flak shells that explode. These were done with a combination. I believe these were primarily Flowline, but we can see all these tracers flying up, tracer smoke. This was all TP. Anytime you see a plane get hit and get destroyed, it's going to be TP, because just doing these kinds of rigid body simulations, it's extremely fast. So here's the breakdown. We've got the different passes, the Flowline Ocean. We're going to curve this thing because it's trying to evade. And then, of course, we get some nice Flowline fire. And
so that Flowline
craziness.
What's that? What do you call that? The ripples behind the ship, that streak of Flowline.
Yes,
this. Is this something like you cut and paste over?
This stuff here?
Yeah,
well, this stuff, we actually had a very very nice kind of workflow that people developed for creating very efficient ways to create these wakes and throw them into a scene. In visual effects, you're always looking for a way to create something as fast with as much flexibility as possible.
So it's a preset.
It's what?
It's a preset, like a black box.
Well, kind of, yeah. They work and they work and they work to develop these and get a really good look that it's going to work both close and far like this.
And all those firing, the missile streaks are all traces from TP, right? All those.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, all these streaks, all these little smoke trails here. Yeah, so it's an incredible amount of stuff. Okay, so this shot, I'll just play it first and we can see what happens. This is one of these plane attack scenes. All these different layers that were involved. It might look simple with the number of layers that we show here, but there's actually quite a few more. And the number of versions that we go through in order to get this right. We get a nice TP explosion here. And so, again, obviously we have the tracer smoke, the tracers. We actually have some planes. Which one? This one has already been kind of hit. This one gets hit.
And this large naval ship is the original model, original 3D model.
That's right, yes. Each one of these ships is meticulously modeled by our modeling team and assembled with our rigging team. So
is it for sale?
No. It's per project. Yeah. You can see this wing has been torn off of this plane. That was also, of course, the TP sim. This wing here is emitting some debris. So yeah, TP is just really unparalleled in terms of emitting debris, casting out particles, doing destruction. And unfortunately, there's actually a shot that we do not have here in this breakdown, but we'll see if we can get it here after or here in a moment. Here's some more TP destruction. That shows a very close-up of a plane hitting the aircraft carrier deck. So we'll try to pull that up in YouTube here if we can. All right. So last but not least, we have this shot. In VFX we work on shots and we work on them by our sequence name and shot code.
Hmm.
So this is a PA, which stands for Pearl Harbor Attack. This is PA 580.
Okay.
And this is so this is maybe the 58th shot in the sequence. And so this is a very large shot that we had to do, which is incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing. Insane.
Yeah. And so, of course, we also had a lot of comparisons with the other Pearl Harbor movie done by Michael Bay some time ago. But here we see the flowline explosions, the TP that's driving them, the compositing layers, and incredible amounts of work done by our entire team. But we'll get here in a second. Some more splashes, debris, and
you have the setup for this, am I right? The TP?
I do have some screenshots to share. Yep. So we'll take a look at that here in a second.
Yeah, this
what I
amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to work on. We had to get a very certain type of behavior. I'm going to break this and pause this in here. So this shot here really shows one of the beauties of TP and its commitment to high quality features. In this case, it's a bullet soft body. We used a very low res kind of cloth sim on this, and then used the new shape deform operator to attach all the high res geode. And so that's how we are able to get this really nice kind of bending out of all this stuff. So
it looks really good.
Yeah, it turned out well.
And I love the below surface or ocean level explosion, the lifting of the water. This is really nice.
Oh yeah. No, they did a really nice job. We of course went through quite a few versions.
Yeah,
but,
I can imagine.
Yeah. Well, in the end, art where it's art on a clock. We're trying to do as much as we can to get every nice detail. We've got a bunch of TP little water impacts causing some flow line splashes and
Nice.
This kind of stuff here. So and of course compositing. You can't give enough props to compositing. These people do so much incredible work.
Yeah.
But let's go into the screenshots for that and take a look. This one's a little bit bigger tree just because it ended up we needed quite a few cleanup passes to deal with some of the geo and attachments of other geo onto the cloth surface. But you can see our group tree here is pretty simple. We actually tried doing some VDB stuff early on in the process. We have a VDB group.
Good. Yeah, that's
here we go, like this. Yeah.
That's much better to see.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we've got, we usually break things down with a top-level group called system, which will store any data channels. We have a remainder geo that's part of the asset but not involved in the sim at all.
Mm-hmm.
And we do this because we need to be able to wrap up the entire assets and its destruction, or multiple assets, and hand all of this over to lighting. So we need a way to organize this.
Mm-hmm. So who is enforcing this? Is it you?
Well, it's really the artists and their choices. We like to give artists as much freedom as we can. There's different levels of experience, and we try to help everybody to grow as much as they can. But everybody does things a little bit differently, and so we try to work together as a team, because at some point somebody else might have to pick this up. And so you want to make it as simple and clear as possible so that they can get up and start making versions as quickly as they can. Yeah. I forget what switch is. It might have been a switch of geometry. We've got some basic debris. We've got, of course, everything involved in a physics simulation.
Mm-hmm.
Just regular plain old geometry, which is probably some ship stuff. And we did some fragmenting of that. We got the cloth neutrons, which are the outside parts of the cloth. The actual cloth panels that do the deformation. Little anchor particles that hold things together. At one point we were trying some flow solver things, so we had a flow in there. And then just basic utility particles, like we import helpers to to control where the bomb is going to blow up, so we can easily move it and try variations. And then joints to visualize where the cloth joints are, show where the cloth joints are broken. We get these surface track, which are used to, which are actually part of the shape deform. And these are basically just points that are sampled over the cloth, and then those actually end up deforming maybe the geo or some other things. But yeah.
So in a sense, your cloth actually mean the metal structure, the metal texture.
The metal of the ship, yes.
Cloth.
Yes, like here, let me bring this back up, and we can.
Where it's denting.
Yeah, where it is deforming.
Right.
And so you can't see it here. All you see here is the high-res deformation version.
Right.
But there's actually kind of a low-res cloth driving all of this stuff.
Right.
So yeah, so that's what we end up using. So anyway, let's see here if I can pan over in this stuff. Here you can see it's a little bit of a complex tree. Once you see something like this, you know it's been worked on for a while. It's a very important shot. It's very close up. So we have quite a few caches. We try to cache in layers.
Very good.
Yeah, well, it's important that people kind of try to organize, keep things logically organized, and you know it takes time. You have to make a lot of mistakes until you can learn to do things in an efficient way. But here in this setup, you know, cache 1 is really where everything starts. And so inside this setup, we would generally have an import of the geometry, create the joints that have the action. The action usually consists of forces and maybe a bullet or SC solver. Then we're going to go into the surface track, which is where we're going to birth samples all over that cloth. And then we're going to follow that cloth. And then here, of course, we have the deform. The deform is what's going to import the high-res geo, deform it, and add any forces to pieces who maybe fall outside of that deform. And certainly this is where we want to filter them out and kill some off. But yeah, this is TP in action, production scene file. Let me see. Let's try to bring up another one here. Where's my other?
Do you remember how big your max files become?
I think on this shot, you know, we always try to work as optimized as we can. And so, you know, we really trim things down. You don't need any background geometry. You don't need this other ship here unless you're going to be colliding debris off it. And so I think maybe it might have been about 500 megs, maybe 300 megs.
Oh, that's light. I'm surprised.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Really light if you have this as the max file sizes.
Right.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah, well it's, you know, it saves you a lot of time when you need to be making a lot of versions. So.
You know that architects easily have max files of 2-3 gigabytes.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, and that's where XRef really comes in handy, and containers and
exactly
different ways to structure your data. This is just a little demonstration. Let me zoom in here for you. How do we do that? There we go. So we've got the cloth joints to anchors. So this is just a real simple setup where we've birthed some anchor particles on the vertices of the cloth neutrons. And so these anchors are looking for the cloth panel vertex. And so it basically looks for the cloth panel at birth, treats it as an object, says, hey, here's the object, which is my cloth panel, and I'm the anchor, so I'm the particle. Tell me the closest vertex on that object, and then, you know, take that position. If my distance is close enough to that vertex position, then create a BT joint, and then also go ahead and modify some of that BT joint data, create a joint helper particle so we can visualize the particle, the joint location. And then of course the memory is going to store some data on that joint so that we're able to update it over time and see where it's going.
Yeah, I love it. Procedural joints. It's really powerful stuff. This is good.
Well, the updates in TP over the years have really allowed us a lot of flexibility. So it's really a pleasure to work with. This is just a show joint setup where we take those joints and they use that joint ID that they've stored in memory. And remember, this is per particle, and so each one of these joints knows his own unique ID number. They give that joint to the BT joint data, and then they can see, hey, what's the particle from, and use that as an object. Get that knot ID, which is really a vertex ID in this case, and get that position, and it'll set that joint position to be wherever that vertex position is deforming. And then of course, if it breaks, we can go ahead and create the joint break particle and see it and visualize it in space. So that's pretty handy. Yeah. This is a very simple one where the bomb impacts. The bomb impacts are, the helpers in the scene that we position. And sometimes we would place the helper, lower in the scene to see how it would affect the cloth, or we move it closer to the surface and the edge. But we need a way to be able to modify that quickly and try different ideas. So this really just says, hey, each bomb impact, it's got a start frame number associated with it. And this is where we use time base. And time base in this case is really just telling us what is the frame number of the sim. And if that frame number matches our bomb impact start frame, then we do an egg timer, which is kind of a one-time switch that kicks off an explosion. And these cloth panels are the ones who get affected by that explosion. This is a little bit of surface track. This is just those particles who we populate over the cloth and use those to stick on the surface. And it's a pretty simple setup where we take the cloth panels and based on their surface area and a multiplier, we decide how many surface trackers to born. And then we feed this into the geom random to randomize the sampling over the surface, store their face ID and face coordinates, and then let's see, in this case, we actually use it at birth for the surface track and put them on that surface. And this is the particle age, and notice particle age is only connected to the particle data. So this part only happens once, this particle data. Thereafter, the surface track is just saying, hey, what's my memory values for my parent surface ID and the coordinates, put that into the surface position and just bring me to that position, and this has a bring to value of 0. This way the surface track gets velocity and position alignment. So I think that's it on the setup. Yeah. Let's let me see if I have. No, I'm pretty sure that's it there. Let's come back in this.
Oh, you forgot to show us the home the escape.
Oh, the sailors, yes.
That's really exciting.
All right. Sure. Let's get into that here. Hang on.
The poor sailors.
Yeah. Right. So the sailor escape. Yes, these guys. So this is a great breakdown because you get to see a lot of the on-set stuff as well as the many layers looking into the depth of this shot. Of course, we've got smoke, fire, water, explosions, tracers, live action, tons of flow line. But here, let's take a look again, and we'll break it down a little bit better. So again, tracers, tracer smoke. One of the really nice things about tracer smoke is it renders super fast. So we're able to do really high quality, high point count renders. And especially right at camera, so you get a little bit of 3D noise on that one. Yeah, integrating the live action, our compositors did a stellar job. Actually, I think in one case here, we should have some, actually, jump back. You see some little spark hits over here too. Sometimes these tracers will hit the boats, and so we went ahead and did some TP sparks. Again, here's our grayscale layers, Flowline water, of course, great models. You know, you also have to do different versions of the assets over time. Like, you know, this ship is a specific version of the asset. It's all distorted and been damaged already. Let's see what else. And you can see how the compositing of this rope really just kind of ends here, part of it. But
Yep.
Well, this must be one of the most suspenseful part of the film.
it's a little crazy, you know, when you've got planes flying in between ships. Let's see, I think I lost it. Oh, interesting. I'm not able to.
It's so cool.
Yeah. Well, you know, working in movies is incredibly fun. It's a little bit of pressure sometimes, but
For this project, did you have to clock in a lot of after work hours overtime, right down to midnight maybe?
oh, we sure did. Yeah, and thankfully, you know, we had a great team, and with everybody pushing as hard as they can to get things done, you can't get through it without a really good team. So we're very thankful.
Joe, do you know if they did any practical fire effects? I guess so. They burned some gasoline, right?
You know, honestly, I don't know for sure. I'm sure they must have. Yeah, this fire here, a lot of these explosions, multiple artists worked on a lot of these, right? So we've got multiple pyroclastics going on in the background, flak, etc. But yeah, this fire down here on the bottom, we went through very many versions to get a really nice look, especially the oil that's burning on the surface. And so yeah, you can kind of see some of that blackened oil in there. So
that's Flowline or it's both Flowline and TP?
that is Flowline fire. Yeah, you can see this is how they simulated the look on set with these screens and the
Yeah, that's funny.
fire images. Yeah, that's how it's done. You know, you need interactive light. So, but yeah, it's good stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Yep.
So, Joe, you are now a well-established veteran in the business of Hollywood major productions. So, can you tell us, like, you almost done it all. You have reached your big dream. So, what is next for you? Could you let us into that?
Well, you know, there's anytime you reach a goal, there's always another goal, and so it never really stops. Yeah, my goals, unfortunately, I have too many goals, and so you really have to prioritize and go for the ones that make the most sense. So programming, scripting, visual effects, pushing TP to be the most powerful program and plugin that it can be. Yeah, and so far, you know, it's what TP has done over the last couple of years is extremely impressive. The new VDB operators and just the improvements that have been made, and everyone will be very excited to see Drop 9 come out. So we've got some upcoming projects at Scanline, of course. We've got, well, right now we're working on Black Widow, and so we've got some really exciting things happening there. A lot of TP, of course, a lot of Flowline. We also have what's called the Eternals. It's starting to ramp up now. It's a big Marvel movie that has some really just outlandish, massive amounts of humongous artistic shots. So it's hard to describe. Yeah, we also have Free Guy. Free Guy is it's a very fun kind of I don't know, virtual game environment kind of movie.
Okay, good.
Really unique stuff.
Wasn't that being done at Munich?
We generally spread it around.
All right. Okay.
So yeah, different portions done by different places. It's, you know, these projects are very large, and yeah, the amount of details we have to do. And the other big announcement is that I'm so excited for Drop 9 of TP that I'm preparing a bunch of new black boxes that we're going to put out there for free. So look for an updated set of those. It might be a few too many, but if you like black boxes, this will be very exciting.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we've had the chance to prepare a lot of things, and especially some of these new features. It's going to be a very big release, so we're looking forward to having everybody check it out.
Yeah, and hearing about so many projects you have at Scanline, do you still need TP talent? And
Oh, we do.
Okay.
If you know TP, please apply.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we need you.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Joe's team is growing. Okay, so Joe, it's quite late. It's almost dinner time in Montreal, so we won't keep you from, taking your rest, and you've got another big day coming up tomorrow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here and giving us all the breakdowns and TP setups. I'm sure a lot of us, every one of us, is going to be thrilled.
Mm.
And
Yeah, you're welcome.
box coming up, your drop 9.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here and share as much as I can to let this great tool, do its magic for the world.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay,
guys.
thank you.